Back here on the Above the Rim Coaches Show, we're going to talk some men's hoops right now. The Huskies have been perfect so far in the first part of 2026. 8-0 in their 8 home games, or 8 games over the course of the first half of 2026. And we are joined now by the head coach of the Huskies, Quincy Henderson. Coach, how are we doing today?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to stay warm in this Arctic freeze here.
I know it's been far too cold. Friday night, I was actually surprised they didn't maybe move the games Friday night with all those teams on buses after the game. I thought maybe there'd be a chance they'd move some games around.
Yeah, we inquired about it, kind of what the process was going to be, but as long as they could get here and they could get here safely, I think it was kind of all systems go. Would have been really hard to reschedule those games just with where we're at in the season. There's not a lot of breaks. And, I was really impressed with the crowd that we had on Friday when it's negative 15 walking into the building. And we had a pretty good environment there. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Friday was one of the better crowds of the season, no doubt. You guys were able to knock off Jamestown on that one, 77-70 on Friday night. First half, a little uneven there for a while. I felt pretty good up 6 at halftime just by the way the first half went. I mean, I had you guys as 10 for 23 or 24 in the paint in the first half, so you were getting a lot of good looks. They just, unfortunately, weren't going down in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, we started out the game, and I thought we had 3 looks inside the restricted area with, minimal contact that didn't go in, and you just got to stick to it and keep doing what you're doing. Those are shots we want, and if you're going to win, they're going to have to fall at some point. So fortunately, they did end up falling later in the first and then through the second half when we started scoring at better efficiency.
We kind of talked about this after the game, but I thought defensively you guys did a really nice job against their dribble drive. You mentioned, or maybe it was Connor mentioned before the game, they kind of like to do that drive and kick and try to find shooters on the outside, but they've got some guys that can get to the rim. And I thought there were more than a few occasions where I thought Kynan had a really nice game, getting in front of guys, and just felt like you guys were able to really kind of control what they want to do, getting to the rim and getting into the lane.
Yeah, so much of what they do offensively are paint touches that lead to threes. And obviously worked pretty heavily on that the week in the lead up. We knew we were going to have to contain some of those drives, and then we're going to have to get out to shooters. And we did. I thought the containment part pretty good. We were getting pickups in around 10 feet, and unfortunately we got just collapsed, and some guys watching the ball after we got those pickups, and Heckner had 2 or 3 open looks on those kickouts. So the first part was good. Second part, we'll have to work some of that this week, but overall the guys stuck with the game plan, and I thought put up a pretty good effort.
You held Anthony Walters to 4 of 15 shooting. He was 0 for 5 from 3. He did get to the line a few times. That dude's built like an NFL linebacker. I mean, he is a challenge when he gets going north and south.
Yeah, he's hard to contain because he's relatively explosive off the dribble, and then when he gets in there, he's physical at the rim, and then you got to hold up to kind of him backing you down or dropping the shoulder a bit. And we had different guys on him. I thought they did a pretty good job. I thought Wyatt's presence in there around the rim probably deterred some of those high percentage shots that he's gotten off in the film that we've watched. So yeah, he's their leading scorer. We knew we were going to have to contain him if we were going to win that game, and for the most part I thought we did that.
Well, there was a stretch early in the second quarter, I think the first, I want to say 10, 12, maybe even closer to 15 minutes, where they only had 5 makes, and 4 of them were the Heckner threes, which we kind of talked about after the game. But for the most part, I mean, defensively, you weren't giving them much. Obviously, those Heckner threes kind of kept them afloat. What did you like about what you guys were doing in the second half defensively?
Yeah, I think they're obviously our assistants, Connor, Coach Chase, Coach Omar do a really good job in the lead up, really keying in on movements and structure of opposing teams. So we normally have a pretty good workup leading into these games, and they get the guys prepared to guard that stuff. And then the guys were able to execute that, and we're in the right positions. And, the talk piece is the biggest thing, that communication. I think we're early on in the year, we probably weren't doing it as well as we needed to. And through kind of the stretch run here, we've been able to do that. I think we've we've been connected defensively and have covered each other. And, it's led to some pretty good efforts and some low shooting percentages for some of the opposing teams.
Now, some of this might have to do with Jamestown's personnel versus Northern, and you can give me your thoughts on it. I want you to compare kind of the end of the game on Friday night as opposed to the end of the game on Saturday. Kind of we're in that same spot both games. Jamestown got a little bit more back into it than Northern did. What did you see comparable between those last 5 minutes of what you guys did as compared to the last 5 minutes on Saturday?
Yeah, two different games in a sense. In the Jamestown game, they pressed for the entirety. They really ramped up the pressure and they got into us. And I think we had a nice lead going into the final 4 minutes there. And
yeah, I had an 11-0 run over about 3 minutes, from about the 5 minute mark to the 2 minute mark.
Yeah, and I think it was still a 3-possession game kind of at that point. And you got to play possessional basketball. In that position. I thought that's what we did. You got to limit your turnovers, which I think we had 8 turnovers total in that game. And then you got to make free throws. We missed some of those, but we made the ones we needed to win that. But that's just situational basketball. In both of those games, both teams are a little bit different in terms of what they do. We saw a bunch of different coverages from Northern. They were man, they were 3-2, they were 2-3, they were switching, they played and drop. So we kind of had to adjust throughout the game to some of the things that they were doing. But overall, I thought our guys did a good job. Do you want to push out 15 lead to a 25-point lead? Absolutely, you do. But at the end of the day, you want to win a game, and that's really what we're focused on from a possession standpoint, not necessarily the final margin.
What did you take away from the game in totality on Saturday?
Yeah, I thought defensively, for a team that shoots a lot of threes on their side, I thought we did a pretty good job. I think we held them to 3 makes. I forget what the final was there, but we contained pretty well, holding them under 60 points. You got to feel good about that. Shooting percentage, I think they're around 13% from 3, 38 or 39 from the field. Results have normally fallen in our favor when we've held teams under 40 from the field. And then we had 17 offensive rebounds, which certainly makes a big difference, particularly when you're not shooting great, because we had some wide open looks against that zone, and you need a few of those to go in to open that up and extend it a bit. But when it's not happening, you got to chase rebounds, and then you got to be good on the defensive end, and we did those things.
Yeah, hold them to 59 points. Another great defensive effort. We talked about how you guys were on that streak of 3 consecutive games at 60 or under. Get to Northern now under 59. 4-game homestand. You guys win all 4. Dealt with some adversity injury-wise over the course of the last couple of weeks. You're going to deal with some more moving forward here. How did you feel like your team responded?
They responded really well. You had obviously Nate go down and Anish go down, and Bob dealing with injury, and Trey, who's on the bench, who's been practice all week, injured, and JJ, who's in a brace, who had an injury. So it was a bit of a triage unit over there at the end of the bench for a while, but some guys stepped up. We asked them, we knew they had to. Funkoski, I thought, did a great job in the minutes he was out there defensively. Will Brands came in and gave us good minutes. I thought Isaac was phenomenal in his minutes in that second game, and those guys were ready. And I know I said it last week, and a lot of times that scout team is beating up on our first group in practices, so they don't shy away from that moment. They were ready to go when we needed them, and we'll likely need them, obviously, moving forward, not just in practice, but potentially lots of minutes and some really big games here, just based on where we're at with some of the health stuff. And it's unfortunate. You don't want that. I wish every team was healthy in the league, and then let's let the chips fall where they may, but we're just not that fortunate, and we're hoping we get guys back in a timely manner here and we can get back to our full strength.
This weekend, you guys will head to Moorhead on Friday, Crookston on Saturday. We've already seen the Golden Eagles once in a non-conference game. Moorhead is the first opponent. This is a new bunch. Jason Kemp takes over as the head coach after Bergstrasser leaves for Denver. Brings in basically an entirely new roster. I mean, they've got the new big guy in Payne. They've got Elamine, who, by the way, this weekend almost single-handedly won 2 games down the stretch when his team was just about buried. Almost won the game Friday, almost won the game Saturday. When you watch these Dragons, what's different? What are you seeing out there?
I mean, they play 11, 12 guys, and I think the rotations change a little bit. So they've obviously got to figure that out on who's going to be running what night and who's got the hot hand. Certainly, Alameen is one of those guys. He's won a few games on some late game heroics already, and I think it comes down to crunch time. It's right between him and Gooden on who's going to be getting the ball in their hands and taking those shots. So containment on those guys is going to be big. We're going to have to be good defensively. They got a bunch of guys who can score at a pretty high clip. They're talented. Payne, is a big body inside and puts pressure on the rim around the bucket. So we'll have a few guys that need to hold up against him. But they're 500 right now. I think they started out, pretty hot early. I think they've leveled out a little bit, but they're playing good ball and they're in a lot of tight games. So it's always tough playing the road, and they'll be ready to go, and we'll be too.
Well, then on Saturday, it's a quick turnaround. You're going to play at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon in Crookston. They've taken away the 22-hour rule between Friday's start and Saturday's start. Any issues with that? Anything you're worried about heading into that quick turnaround on Saturday?
I mean, it's not ideal, right? We're on the road, traveling between games, finishing up at whatever, 9:30 or 10 based on when that women's game finishes, and you get into Crookston, late night, and, you're turning around, 20 hours later, 21 hours, something like that, playing another game. So, yeah, I don't know. We're still kind of figuring that out a little bit. These Friday, Saturday, you're on the road with that distance, the quick turnaround. Then you got the Thursday, Saturday. You got a day in between. I'm not entirely sure the difference with some of that or what the calculus was behind some of the scheduling stuff. But, I don't know. It is what it is, right? Not ideal. Do I wish it was different? Certainly do. I wish we were playing a little bit later so we had a little more recovery time. I think that's good for the athletes, but that's not the case. We'll have to gear up, on a short clock and get back after it against Crookston, who, knocked off Sioux Falls, at their place this past weekend. So they got a few guys who can score. We know the Lindsay kid gave us some fits at home when we played them. Swenson's been playing really well. He put up some numbers here this weekend. I think the Isaiah Williams kid is solid. So we'll have to be good on Saturday as well.
Any thoughts on the fact that the South Division has dominated the North Division here through these first 6 games?
I'll leave that to the fans to kind of weigh in on their thoughts on that. On any given night, you're going to be in a dogfight, and certainly on the road. So I'm not looking at the North thinking, it's going to be easier playing this weekend, or I guess following weekend we're back in the South. But that's not for maybe when I'm retired I'll weigh in on some things.
Well, it certainly helps the strength of schedule for. I know you're not thinking about that yet, but thinking about those at-large bids somewhere down the line. Coach, I appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you Friday night.
I appreciate it, Steve.